If you haven't looked at your bulletin yet to see what I'm talking about, it's forgiveness. It's about releasing judgment and a return to love, returning to love. But Martin Luther King Jr. said, forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a permanent attitude. And when I first read that, I really resonated with it. I'm going to mention a little bit more about it later in my talk. But the God that unity believes in does not forgive the way we usually see, the way forgiveness is usually thought of by a lot of people, as that would require giving up a negative judgment. And in unity, we don't believe that God judges, so there's no need for forgiveness. So God doesn't forgive because there's no judgment made. What if we remember meaning our higher self reminds us something that we already knew and somehow forgot when we came here to this planet. But what if we remember that forgiveness is a shift in how we perceive a person or a situation that triggered us to feel hurt or angry? A shift in perception. And that's what I want to look at this morning. I want to let go of looking at forgive as it is commonly defined in a dictionary. Here's one dictionary definition: to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, a flaw, or mistake. Now, I think unity would align with the first part of that statement, to stop feeling anger or resentment toward a person, right? But the second part, for an offense, flaw, or mistake, those are judgments. We judge that they've offended us or that there is a flaw or a mistake. And so we want to let those kind of things go. And before I go any further, I want to invite you to take what resonates with you from whatever I'm going to talk about today, and just leave the rest. And it's like when you go to a restaurant with a buffet, right? You get in the line and you walk down the line and you take, oh, that looks good, I like that. Oh, that looks like something I would like, I'm not sure, but I'm going to try it, you know? And then you go down and sit down at your table and you enjoy your meal. You didn't call for the manager and demand that all the food you didn't like or didn't want be taken away because it offended you, right? No, you didn't do that. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have more of our experiences in life like that? Like, yeah, just take what feels good, right? And leave the rest. It's not for us. Maybe one day it might be or may not be, but it's not for you now. And so I repeat what Martin Luther King Jr. said. Forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a permanent attitude. Now, we've heard a lot about developing an attitude of gratitude over the years, right? And rightfully so. It's a very powerful attitude to have. It uplifts us, it makes us feel good, and it attracts to us more of what we're grateful for. So powerful attitude to have. Yet how often do we hear about developing an attitude of forgiveness? We hear different stories about forgiveness, right? But not so much as developing it into an everyday attitude, a way of being in our life. But I see that as just as important as an attitude of gratitude for raising our frequency and vibration, for uplifting us. And forgiveness sets us free. Yeah, the Good Friday reading in Daily Word said, as long as you're holding anger and resentment towards others, you can't be free. So forgiveness sets us free. Don't we all want to be free? I love feeling free. I love it. I love it. There are a lot of different ideas among humans and religions and cultures as to what forgiveness is, right? I know I've learned it different ways over the years. The common dictionary definition I mentioned earlier is one. That's one where someone who has done something wrong is pardoned. And one person is labeled perpetrator and the other person is labeled the victim, right? In the Revealing Word, Charles Fillmore defines forgiveness as a process of giving up the false for the true. Giving up the false for the true. I do too, yeah. erasing error thoughts from our mind. And he says sin is missing the mark, which comes from an old archery term meaning falling short of the target. So it's not that we've done something terrible, but we've just missed our target, you know? And let's let our target be love. But sin is an error in thinking that can be transformed through the renewing of the mind, reperceiving, seeing something differently. So forgiveness in this understanding is not about excusing or pardoning another person for something done wrong. It's about freeing ourselves by renouncing error thinking, error judgment, because that then dissolves fear-based resistance. And resistance is what keeps us from being free also. So forgiveness is about seeing differently in a way that aligns with Source. Seeing differently. It's about releasing our perception that caused us pain when somebody said something or did something to us, right? And often our perceptions are based on judging by appearances that were untrue or making an assumption that was not validated. Puts us into error thinking, right? That is simply the appearance that Christ told us not to judge by. Forgiveness is about finding a way of seeing other people that aligns with the truth of who they really are. And it's about allowing ourselves to remember that we are spiritual beings of love personified, spiritual beings of love in human form, playing on this planet, learning and growing and remembering. That's a big shift for most people. That's a big shift because it means forgiveness is not for other people, it's for us. It's for our well-being. Yay. Once we realize this, we'll want to forgive, or as I like to say, reperceive, because we know that holding anger and resentment harms us. It harms us. Think about it. Holding on to resentment, anger, negative judgment, that's heavy. That's heavy. It weighs heavy on our heart and our body. It clouds our minds, can make us sick. And if held in intensity for a long enough time, it can kill us. Not an easy way to die. Not a fun way to die, no. And there's that old saying that holding on to anger or resentment towards another person is like you drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So forgiveness is not about letting someone else off the hook. It's about taking yourself off the hook. Amen. And it's never too late to forgive. The person you're forgiving doesn't even need to still be alive. Doesn't need to be alive, because what you're really doing is an inside job of releasing the judgment you've been holding on to. I can feel that letting go there. Yeah. The judgment you've been holding on to and reperceiving, seeing as Source sees, and then giving love. Yes. Giving love. And speaking of learning to see how Source sees, here's what Abraham Hicks said. If the Source within you is one who loves, and that is the case, and you are focused on something that triggers feelings of resentment, unfairness, or injustice in you, and you're all upset over it, what that means is you're looking at the situation in a way that Source within you would not look. I like that. I really like that. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. It takes strength to release fear. It takes strength to see something differently that you were so sure was true. And it takes strength to give love. And we've got that strength. And then war, much of which is happening on the planet today, is usually based on declaring certain countries or people as enemies and wanting to dominate them, wanting to overtake them, maybe take their resources, take their land. Or a country defending itself from another country attacking them. Because those deciding to go to war are coming from fear or greed, or possibly both, and cannot forgive what they believe another country is doing or has done or might do to them. Remember what Jesus said we are to do with our enemies? Love them, right. Love your enemies. But better yet, what if we didn't even see anyone as an enemy? Because if we believe there's only one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God the good omnipotent, how can anybody be an enemy? Yeah, that's something that humans made up through error thinking. Just a mistake. And A Course in Miracles teaches that forgiveness is a shift in perception. A shift in perception, seeing a call for love instead of an attack. And I resonate with this definition of forgiveness because it means when someone is acting in a way that feels hurtful to you, they're certainly not aligned with love. What you're really seeing is someone who has forgotten who they are, and are themselves hurting. And thus the expression, hurt people. Yeah. So people who are hurting and thus act in hurtful ways, this is their defense mechanism to protect themselves from getting hurt even more than they have been in the past. They don't know what love truly is. They've closed their heart to protect themselves, to protect their heart. And because they've closed their heart, they also cannot let love in. They're unable to let love in, even when it's offered to them. So if you can see them in that way, you can feel compassion, which is a form of love. And instead of reacting to another whose behavior triggered hurt in you, you can choose to respond from love, from that compassion, from that understanding. And remember that the power for this month, our spiritual power for April, is love. So this is a wonderful month that I think is going to make it easier for all of us to choose love, to give love, to be the love that we are. Gerald Jampolsky, in his book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, wrote, "Forgiveness is an inner correction that lightens the heart. It is for our peace of mind first." Now, we're hearing some repetition here, aren't we? But people say things in different ways, and repetition helps us to learn. And hearing it different ways helps us to learn. That's why I'm sharing these different expressions with you. Christian author Lewis Smead said, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free and to discover that prisoner was you." Yeah. And Arnold Patton, in his book, You Can Have It All, says, "Forgiveness is the complete suspension of judgment." Ooh, that can be a challenging one. Complete suspension of judgment for humans, right? But if you're like me, you can probably notice judgment coming up in your thoughts. Every day for me. But I'm learning not to let it stay there. I'm learning to re-perceive, right? And look at the person or the situation differently. And I catch myself judging several times a day. Thank goodness now it's more in my thoughts and not so much in my spoken word, but still I catch myself speaking it sometimes. So yes, I practice the process of forgiveness every day. Every day. It's a practice. And being aware of when I am judging is the first step. Yes. Awareness is the first step. And here's a shift in perception that came to me as I was preparing for this talk. I realized maybe it's not about making forgiveness a permanent attitude. Maybe forgiveness as a shift in perception is one of the steps in the process. Step 1, being aware of the negative judgment. Step 2, forgiving, that is, giving up your error thinking, replacing it with the truth, which then shifts your perception. Step 3, seeing as Source sees to the best of your ability. Step 4, giving love to the best of your ability. So maybe it's not about, maybe it is about making giving love a permanent attitude. Giving love a daily, permanent attitude. Because when we're truly giving love or seeing someone else calling for love, there's nothing to forgive. Love doesn't judge. Love doesn't hold grievances. Love sees the truth. So instead of trying to forgive, as we've seen it in the past, what if we simply practice giving love as we are being love? We can skip those steps 1 and 2 because we're so good at reperceiving quickly or seeing the truth in something that we can just see as Source sees and then give love. But I'm still doing steps 1 and 2 still, so including them. Not always, but most of the time. Practice, practice, practice. Over and over and over again. And being gentle with yourself. Until giving love becomes a natural, free-flowing part of you. Until the love that you are radiates from you. Just automatically radiates from you, and people catch that. And the quote that started me thinking this way was in Roger Lanfear's book, Unified. He was an interesting person. I don't know a lot about him, but he was a lawyer. He was a mystic. I think he channeled. He taught meditation. But he wrote, life is for giving love. Not for giving love, but for giving love. For giving love, that is forgiveness, nothing else. I love that. And what this says to me is that instead of making negative judgments about others, we choose to give love in any of its various forms. That could be compassion, that could be acceptance, it could be allowing, it could be appreciation. Love has so many forms to choose from. And then forgiveness becomes letting go of any judgment. They may come up and instead choosing to give love without conditions. Unconditional love. Unconditional love. Now I want to share with you what this practice looks like for me in my life. So step 1, I become aware of a negative judgment. Then next, I ask myself, Judee, do you believe what you say you believe? And the answer is always yes, I do believe it. Yes. So then I ask myself, okay, how are you going to show up right now? That brings me back into integrity. How are you going to show up right now? That's where the shift happens. I remember that I was thinking erroneous thoughts and judging another person in a negative way. I remember that. I put my hands on my heart and say, I love this human who's still judging. I remind her not to judge by appearances, not to make assumptions. And then I remember that there is only one presence and one power. And I am an expression of that presence and power. The other person is an expression of that presence and power. So it's all God. It's all God and it's all good. And we're learning and we're growing. And I am being called upon to give love, and be the love that I am. And then I ask the God within me, how can I see this person as you see this person? How can I see this person as you see this person? I change my perception to align with the God energy in the other person, or I might imagine them when they were a young, innocent child and full of love. Or I might behold the Christ spirit in them. Unity likes to behold the Christ in others. Or I simply remember that God is all there is. And I choose to feel love and give love. Now, I do it right every time? No. But I get faster at getting there the more I practice. And I continue to practice. That's growth. That's transformation. And the gifts I receive, oh, wow. A clearer mind, freedom, joy, lightness of heart, more harmonious relationships, better health, and oh, peace of mind. Just to name a few. Just to name a few. I know that if I can do this, so can you. And the more of us that do that, the easier it becomes for everyone. And it goes viral. Yeah. Yes. What if each of us starts increasing our own ripple effects of giving love out into the world? Not trying to change others, not trying to fix others, not trying to control others, not expecting others to live by our rules of life, our shoulds, not seeing others as wrong or bad, but simply choosing to see differently from our God within and give love anyway, no matter what. Before I share something with you in closing, I want to share Catherine Ponder's forgiveness prayer. How many are familiar with that? Yeah. All that has offended me, I forgive. Within and without, I forgive. Things past, things present, things future, I forgive. I forgive myself. I forgive everything and everyone who can possibly need forgiveness in my past and in my present. I forgive absolutely everyone. I am free, and all others are free also. All things are cleared up between us now and forever. Now, I'm going to read it to you, say it to you again, but instead of saying forgive, I'm going to substitute the words give love to. All that has offended me, I give love to. Within and without, I give love. Things past, things present, things future, I give love to. I give love to myself. I give love to everyone and everything that can possibly need love given to them, in my past and in my present. I give love to absolutely everyone. I am free and all others are free also. All things are cleared up between us now and forever. And I'm going to leave a copy of that here if anybody wants to make copies to put, out for people. But I invite you to do something this week. If there's something or someone in your life right now that you have not been able to forgive, that you just feel like you can't forgive, just begin by declaring your willingness to forgive. Just being willing is a big step that opens up a pathway for you. You don't have to force anything. Just be willing to see things differently. Be willing to let go and let God handle the details, including inspiring you in what you need to do. Then trust. Trust that God has your back. That's enough. That's where it begins. And I'm doing that with you this week. But let's don't do it for just a week. Let's just keep on and on and on. So in closing, I'd like to share with you something that my higher self gave me many years ago before I was going to speak on forgiveness at Unity of Dothan, before they changed their name to Spiritual Enrichment Center. And this is it's just a simple little poem that makes me feel good about forgiveness. Forgiveness is easy. It sets me free. It brings me joy and prosperity. I simply let go and see anew. I choose to feel good through and through. Love is the answer. Love is the key. But most important is that I love me. I invite God in and step aside. Then I simply enjoy the ride. So I invite you to enjoy the ride with me, and just every now and then just throw your hands up and say, "Wee!"